Welcome back to Movie Reel. It is officially summer. Actually, no, technically it's still
Woo!
spring, but whatever. Anyway, I'm Samantha Tomlinson.
Now I'm Kevin Tracy. Time to work on that summer bod, people.
I mean, I think it's not summer until the summer solstice, which is like the 21st or something, so technically
All
it's
right,
still spring. But
all right, sweet. There's still time to work on my summer bod.
it is June, and that means we do summer movies. And I really love this time of year. It's I feel like these are our say our favorite months. I feel like it's this, and then we head into in the fall, head into horror month, and
Yeah, I feel like this is like when we really just start cutting loose with just throwing in like a bunch like you know what? Let's just review what we want to review instead of sticking with like some like random preset like schedule because believe it or not there is structure to the show, people.
I will. Is that a
It may not seem like it, but it makes sense in our crazy movie rattled
is
heads.
that a dig at the movie we're doing today? Because so this is a movie I do consider. I will say I do watch. I have it is a movie. There are a couple movies that I do think of as summer movies that I can watch at any time. You know what I mean? Like I can't watch The Mummy in like February, but I can watch this movie, Get Smart, I think pretty much at any holiday, because I remember I went and saw it when it came out in the summer of like
2008.
2008, and I think it came we all got it for Christmas in that year. So we watch, it's one of those movies that my whole family would watch it anytime. So for me, this is a
Yeah,
nostalgic favorite,
I
and for you it's
okay.
not. I take it.
I have not seen this since it came out in theaters, and I promptly forgot about it, except for the fact that they had like a random spin-off movie that they promoted the ever-loving
Wait,
fuck out of.
that was a movie? I thought that
The
was like a show or something.
I I I I honestly don't even
I
know.
didn't
I
watch
never
it either.
watched it,
Yeah.
but they it seemed like they played it for like 3 months straight on like TBS like every other weekend, and it was like a spin-off with like the IT guys and their robot Patrick
Oh,
Warburton.
Jaime.
And yeah, Jaime, and yeah, they they just like it seemed like they were just promoting that like everywhere, like Lorax level promotion, like it was fucking everywhere. It seemed like, but yeah, I have not seen this movie in theaters, and I watched it the other night, and yeah, surprise, surprise, it is not as funny as I remember. There, don't get me wrong, there are some funny jokes and funny moments, but overall, I don't really enjoy this movie as much as you,
I Yeah,
as it
I mean,
sounds
I
like.
kind of just going into this, I assumed you didn't like this movie just because I know you, and it was just that was just my assumption. But like it's I guess more nostalgic. I don't know. It just I saw it in theaters. We watched it a lot. It's a movie that I think my whole family enjoyed and laughed at and whatnot. But because I think it's like this is I think a decent I don't know, I feel like for my family at least, we this is a good like family comedy. It is like I mean it is PG-13, but there's not really any like sex jokes or anything like
Yeah.
that.
I mean, there are parts where it's like, okay, this is a little horny
But it's pretty subtle, like
for a
him
movie like
like her
this.
when she's going underneath the lasers and she's like, "Are you looking at my butt?" And he's like, no." Like that's pretty I mean, I don't know. It was
Yeah,
subtle enough. It wasn't that like
it, like that was tame, and then actually seeing her go through later, just like this is a tad excessive, and then her like dancing with the
uh
uh bomb
Las
maker is like this.
Christics. I'm like,
Yes,
I will say that
Christic.
joke of Alan Arkin, who's the chief of Control, is that joke. I was kind of like, it's not that difficult of a name to pronounce necessarily. I mean, it's not. I don't know. It's
I
not an easy name, I would
yeah.
say, but like he's telling you exactly how to say it, and it was like he was saying it wrong intentionally. That, yeah.
Yeah, I Honestly,
This
Alan
this
Arkin
is a
was the
fun
star of this
cast.
movie, in my
Yeah.
opinion. He was by far the funniest
I
person of this
I
entire
can agree. I
movie.
think I do think this is a very fun cast. It's also very much a cast when you think of it of the time. So it's Steve Carell, who is 2008. That's still very much off his height. Anne Hathaway. This is kind of at that stage. It was before Les Mis, but it was like post Princess Diaries when she was starting to branch out of like the kind of
Fantasy and all that,
yeah,
yeah.
like that yeah, like the
Like Ella Enchanted and
yeah,
stuff
she
like
was
that.
doing a little things a little bit more edgier or dark. I think she around this time was nominated for an Oscar for a different movie. Like, she was bursting out of that I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but it was like it
Her breaking out of her shell.
she did a lot more tame things and then she started doing more mature things.
Yeah.
Not like in a gross, not gross,
Um,
but like just more adult
yeah.
things. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And also Dwayne Johnson with hair, which really
That
threw me off
it,
because it's like,
yes,
wow, I haven't seen you with hair in forever. And also, he looks super small in
I
this movie. Like he
yeah.
looks like modern day Dwayne Johnson would eat like this movie's Dwayne
Yeah,
Johnson
Dwayne,
because
yeah.
he's
I
so much
yeah.
smaller in this.
He is not he is like he looks like oh and yeah, like he's much smaller in this. His muscles are not nearly as like bulgy as they usually are. But also
I mean, don't get me
yeah,
wrong. Don't get me wrong. He would destroy you.
he's still muscular, but yeah, like compared to how he is today, yes, he is definitely smaller. But I think for me, what really threw me was I remember when we watched Doom, and he was in that, and he in that
Oh yeah.
movie compared to it's like half of it's I think part of it is he has hair, but he just I remember in that movie something about the way he looked like he was CGI. And this I realized it kind of was the same thing. Like and I'm just wondering now, like, because this was around again. This was also that time where The Rock was kind of at like he was doing a lot of like kids movies, like The Game Plan, and he I remember was like randomly on an episode of like Hannah Montana. He was very much like doing family and kid oriented things, and this
Yeah, no, he
you know what
definitely
I mean. This is
was.
very much a movie. This cast is very much like I almost want to say a product of its time, but I feel like that's not. I don't know if that's quite correct. Like the cast is very
It's
2008.
yeah, because it's got Terry Crews, it's got David Koechner, James
They
Caan, Patrick
both
Warburton, and
yeah.
Masai Oka from Heroes.
Yes, yes,
Which
yes.
honestly, like I don't think like aside from this and Heroes, I cannot think of a single other thing that he is in.
He is in the Meg, and he dies really early on.
Yes, The Meg. Everyone remembers that movie. I saw that in theaters, and I barely remember that movie.
That is
I thought I dreamed that movie.
my sister and I love the Meg. It's
Yeah,
like it's anyway, but
yeah. like it. Like yeah. No, I remember seeing that with like my entire family, and I was talking about it the entire way home, and I promptly forgot I ever saw it the next day.
see, it was when my sister saw it in theaters, and she loved it, like because it's who doesn't love a monster movie, but also like it's a kind of ridiculous and ludicrous monster movie.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
she saw it in theaters, and I guess she told me she like it ended with them going Finn. And then she showed it to me, and we had just watched Geostorm, which was and also is also a fun bad movie, but we
Oh
were
God.
way more into the Meg, and the Meg was a lot more of like a dumb good fun movie. But anyway, um,
Yeah. I also remember it was something along like that same vein was Hurricane Heist was kind of like
yes,
in
I
the
haven't seen
same
Hurricane
kind of
Heist.
vein as that.
Yeah,
I started it and I was like, wow, this is really boring actually.
that doesn't surprise me
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, yeah, I hadn't seen this movie in a while, and like I said, I suggested it for this month, because like again, like I said, I grew up watching it, and it came out during the summer. This was like a definitely like a popcorn flick of the time. It's like a dumb
Oh
action, and
yeah.
I really
It's like a dumbed down Austin Powers. It feels like.
it's like a yeah, it's kind of I really love like comedic action or comedic like adventure or like adventure or action movies where there's a lot of humor. I mean, this is more a comedy, but like yeah, it's I think it's really fun, but I will admit watching it this time, I was still laughing a lot, and there were parts that I was going back because I was laughing at and I wanted to hear it again. But I will admit, there were things that I noticed, and I feel like if I had watched it, if this was my first viewing of it, I would be like, yeah, this movie is a piece of shit. But to be honest, this week, like literally the timing could not have been more perfect. This week, I watched the first two Mission Impossibles for the first time, and because someone at work was she really loves like Top Gun, and she was so excited to go see the new one. So I watched Top Gun, and then I ended up just in this, I don't want to say full on black hole of Tom Cruise, but I watched the first two Mission Impossibles, and they are terrible. They're so bad, and I was like, honestly, the
Wait,
first one, I was so angry by how disappointed I was and my biggest issue with it was it wasn't a fun movie. Whereas Get Smart, whether you like it or not, like there are things about it that make it fun, and something I do appreciate about it, and we'll talk more about it next time, because next time we're talking about Kingsman. We're doing a spy theme this month.
yeah,
Um, but
yeah,
with something both of these movies have in common is like old school spy the spy trope, like the suits and the
yeah.
fun gadgets. But the thing I appreciate about this movie was I felt like overly they didn't shove it down our throats of how they are old school. The only kind of real mention of it is how it was created. It was like supposedly in the very beginning when
It was like a
yeah, it
Cold
was
War thing.
disbanded air quotes during the Cold War, and then we see Steve Carell go into work, and there's like 20 different like mechanical doors for him to step through. But yeah,
Yeah, and they're all like the worst CGI you can
there
think
some of them look
of.
okay, but I noticed some of them didn't look great. But yeah,
Yeah.
but that actually brings me. I want to talk about this right now. The score, particularly the theme for this. So Get Smart.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, Get
it's
Smart
pretty
was a
good, yeah.
show in the 60s, about kind of like, Max Smart, who's a
Yeah.
spy
I,
and is
you know,
teamed up with Agent 99.
yeah, honestly which honestly was the height of like the
Mm-hmm.
spy genre, was like around like the 50s and 60s, which, the Cold War, because everyone was
Yeah.
super paranoid about spies. Like that was on everyone's like, forefront, with like, like the Red Scare and like the Cuban Missile Crisis. Like all that stuff was like, oh my god, what if my neighbor's a communist? So they made this show to make it like seem a bit, you know, more of like a novel thing, rather than like, no, like my neighbor's a communist and he's gonna kill me, like that
Yeah,
kind of
it's
thing.
kind of this whole concept, it's kind of like what Brooklyn Nine-Nine is, of taking a very serious kind of job but making it silly and having kind of like for example, Terry Crews and David like is it Kackner? I've always mispronounced his name, but they're is it
I thought it was pronounced
I
like
think it's like I think I've heard it
Kocher,
as like
Kochner.
Kackner or it's I don't yeah, and anyway,
Well,
maybe
Kochner,
I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
Okay, Dave. Anyway,
It's David.
um,
David.
they're kind of like that. They're like behavior. They're kind of like think of like high school like jocks or like frat boys, that they're just kind of like the office like slight bullies. Like they're not like terrorizing Steve Carell's character, but yeah,
there's sitcom bullies because they bully you in a way that no bully
they more
actually
just like
bullies you
tease
in real
him a
life.
little bit, but like they don't do. But like okay, like there's a joke. Max is an analyst, and he's really really detail oriented, and he's about to make a presentation, and uh, so Cat, his name's Larrabee. It's Larrabee and Agent 91. Terry Crews is 91, and he's texting, and The Rock's
Yeah,
like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm just texting my fiance. We can't get married in June because I'll still be in this meeting." And then The Rock breaks it. He's like, "Oh,
The
you lost
Rock
the signal,"
snaps
and
his
gives
phone
it
in
back. And
half.
then Terry Crews takes it, and goes, "Next time, use your own phone." I think I will say, okay. Anyway, we're getting off script, but like those type of like they're those two kind of characters that like they're they're made for comic relief. They would not probably be behaving this way in this actual situation or agency like
Yeah,
this. But the yeah.
they remind me of like the two like douchebag like detectives in The Other
Oh,
Guys with Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg.
do you
They're
mean
the
okay,
exact
do you
same
mean like
character.
Rob Riggle and is it Damon Wayne? Okay, like because there's them, and then there's The Rock
Yes.
and Samuel Jackson who die promptly.
Well, yeah, no. Oh, yeah, they're dead in like the first like 10 minutes of the movie. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, like they don't count. It's like, oh yeah, aim for the bushes, and they jump off like a 3-story building right into the pavement. There's nothing there to break their
I love
fall.
that joke. There wasn't even an
Um,
awing.
it
Doesn't make sense.
is.
No, they just jumped 20 stories. Like we have to do that movie at some point. But anyway, yeah,
Yeah, no, that is by far like the
yeah,
best joke
they're
in that
the
movie. But
yes,
yeah, no, like yeah, they're the sitcom
that's a good way
bullies
of putting
that
it. Yeah,
like yeah, like a lot. Yeah, they're sitcom bullies because they just they don't really do anything like overtly like traumatizing like an actual bully. They just like do like like random like hazing and they like play off of each other really well. And there's like a couple there's like a recurring joke where Larrabee gets like a paper stapled to his
I do.
forehead because it's like, oh, he like paper jam he didn't like fix the paper jam in the printer because like all the agents are grounded because
They were
uh
breached.
yeah, there's a data leak and all their agents are being like assassinated, so they have to send Steve Carell's character out because he's not an agent, so they don't have any of his info. So they make him an agent and they send him out into the field with 99 and Hathaway's character, who just had like extensive plastic surgery, so she has a completely new face, and like that's their whole bit with it. And then when she shows him a picture of what she looked like, it's a completely
And
different actress.
yes, but also
Which I thought that was
that's
really funny too. It's like this is what I used to look
if
like
anything, I
oh
thought,
shit.
why would they be carrying that on their person? I thought that was weird. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess, like, okay,
Yeah,
on, like, our phones, we have, like, selfies and whatnot, but it seems weird to have a wallet size picture of yourself. Like, I don't know if, I don't know, whatever. But regardless, kind of back to the theme. So the theme, I actually listened to it after watching the movie, and I mean, it's the same. Really, this is just like it's a little more contemporary. But I was thinking, like, how much fun this composer must have had with it. Like, he's just taking something that already exists and just kind of amping it up. And I think it sounds really great.
yeah, because it's a remix of the original
Yes,
theme
it's
song
the
from the
same. It's the
show,
same
right?
like
Okay,
melody, but obviously it's just uh, let's say upgraded, but it's the same. Yeah, it's the same like
yeah,
tune. Um, but yeah, so I don't know if we really talked about, it, but so Steve Carell, it's not CIA. It's a different secret like government agency called Control, and they are
control
fighting to stop. Uh, so basically, their enemy.
the evil
Yeah,
forces of
which I
chaos.
don't know. That's it's like I kind of love. I think that's something that I've always appreciated about this movie. It's the ridiculousness of it. Like it's not campy. I mean, it could. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it's
on the
so
nose,
on the
but they don't
nose.
like make a big deal about it. I think there's one joke about them being about chaos being chaos when which I'll be honest, I never really thought about until this time, but where so chaos agents are, they're Russian, like they said, because this was a Cold War, these were Cold War agencies, and they're stealing
Yeah.
explosives, because explosives are basically going like missing all over like the world. That's kind of like what Agent 99 and Carell are going. They're trying to find out what Chaos is up to. Yes.
Specifically, yellow cake
And
uranium.
they steal some explosives, and then it's that actor. I gotta see what his name is. He's in a lot of things. He was also a very much an actor who was like around that time. He was like the yeah,
Terrence Stamp.
yes, he was in like
Siegfried's character.
Yes
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, Terrence Stamp. He was in Yes Man, and
He was also the evil butler in The Haunted Mansion with Jennifer
oh
Tilly
my
and Eddie
gosh,
Murphy, a classic
oh my gosh,
Walt
it's been a
Disney
million years since
staple.
I've seen
How
that.
could you
But
forget?
um,
How could you forget such a
fair
cinematic
enough,
classic,
fair
Sam?
enough. But anyway, and his sidekick, it's funny. I recognize him, and I recognized him like years ago when I first saw this. The reason why I know him was because another movie that my sister and I grew up watching and watched all the time is he was in a Mary Kate and Ashley movie that we watched all the time, where they are put in they witness no, they
That
basically,
was not
it's
something
called
I was
Our Lips Are
expecting.
Sealed, and they witnessed a crime, and their family is placed in witness protection, and they're in Australia. And he. and
I remember that
he's the
movie.
evil sidekick in
Oh
that.
my god! Yeah, but yeah, no, like yeah, and like the whole bit is that like they go through like multiple different like identities because they keep blabbing
It's so
about their
fucking stupid.
identity in some way or another. And Australia is literally like Australia is literally like the last destination. It's like you've gone through 50 covers in
Basically, like
2 weeks.
literally,
You
the
guys are
first
the
like they're
worst.
relocating. The first thing they're asked is like, what brings you guys here? And they're like, oh, we witnessed a crime and now we're in witness protection. And it's like, what the fuck? It's like, that's the whole joke, is that they can't keep a secret, and they have. But anyway, yeah,
Yeah, it's like
basically.
so you guys
But
want to die.
so
Is that
his
what's going
character name
on?
is Starker, and he is like the sidekick, the evil sidekick henchman in that movie. That's how and so he's just the same, pretty much the same character in this movie. But anyway, so the joke is they steal explosives, and Siegfried's like, okay, burn the building, and one of them's like, why do we, if we already have what we need, why do we need to burn the building? And then he shoots him, and it's like, oh, because they're chaos. Like, there's no point. The chaos is chaos. There's no point to it. And that's like, okay. But I feel like other than that, they don't shove it down our throats that because it could have been more campy, and I kind of appreciate
You
that it
know, we're evil.
wasn't. Or it skitter it, like, I mean, it wasn't it
Yeah,
skittered
like
around it,
honestly,
which I
I felt
appreciate.
like Terrence Stamp's character was so wasted on this. Like he brings like a level of like actual like an actual genuine terrifying presence as his character, and he's not even like the main bad guy. He's like the second in command and like face of chaos for like Agent 23, Dwayne the Rock Johnson's like actual like secret reveal that he's a
Spoiler alert.
spoiler for this like
Yeah.
2008 movie. Uh, that like Dwayne the Rock Johnson is secretly been running chaos and doing all this, but like Siegfried is like actually has a genuine terrifying presence that this movie had no right to actually have, because like every time he's on screen it's like, oh, I believe that this man will kill you and feed you to like his like pet like great white shark that he has, because of course he has a pet great white shark or something like that. I
I
was
don't, not
no,
that
no,
we've seen.
I'm
You can assume,
assuming
but I don't think.
this man's
Yeah.
evil. This man of course has a great white shark as a pet.
Like, did you watch like an extended
No,
like
no,
version or something?
I'm generalizing because you know like spy
Yes,
movies
yes.
always have like some like
Yeah.
exotic animal that is like super deadly that is like, oh, I'm going to feed you, like you know, like the whole Austin Powers bit of like,
Yes.
I just want some great white
Yeah.
sharks with freaking laser beams attached to their heads, just like super over the top, like I'm gonna feed you to this rare deadly animal that I have cultivated for my own nefarious reasons.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. Yeah. Like he is that he seems that kind of bad guy, but yeah, he's not given that much to work with. And I think that was that's the thing about this movie is I do think you agree that there are laughs in it, and I do think there I think the comedy I don't really have an issue with. If anything, what I noticed were there wasn't the movie seemed to think there was a lot more emotional content for an audience to sympathize with than there actually was, particularly between Agent 99 and Max.
Yeah, that was like
But
non-existent.
basically, I don't, it's like, basically, we kind of, he asks her, there's like a scene where because she in the beginning does not want to be partnered with him. He has no experience, and so he's kind of learning as he's going. But also, it the whole kind of point of it is he does do things his own way. As an analyst, there's things he knows these people because he's been listening to them for so long
Yeah.
that actually becomes an asset. So he's not and there's like a joke. He's like, "I'm not completely incompetent without a gun." Like, which I'm wondering if that's a line that from Get Smart because the whole missed it by that much. That was like the catchphrase.
That was a catch. He only said it like a couple times in this movie, which I'm glad that they didn't just like overuse like a catchphrase or something like that.
I think they should have used it. They only used it twice, and I kind of wish they used it a third time just to really seal,
I thought they
just
did
kind of
use
to
it
seal
three
the
times.
deal.
Did they not?
I can only think of two times. It happens at the very end, and it happened once in the middle. I don't remember. Wait, maybe when they yeah I don't think it was only twice. I can't think of another time. I can't think of an earlier time than the second time or the first
Uh,
time we hear it.
well, anyway, yeah,
Whatever.
there's the catchphrase. But yeah, going more into the villains, their whole thing is that they're trying to hold the world ransom with all these like nukes that they've given to like all these quote unquote 20 unstable dictators, and since everyone like more or less believes that this is a defunct agency, that chaos no longer exists, the United States government doesn't believe this to be a credible threat except for control. It's like you you idiots. And then Chief gets into like probably like one of like my favorite lines of like him fighting the vice president. It's like, I've been waiting for this since the Nixon era, and he jumps over the table and just tackles the VP. It's like,
Because
that's
literally
hilarious.
all of them are like older white men, and so of course they make old jokes. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's also that scene. It's so yeah, Alan Arkin, um, Kevin Nealon is in there if you for a second, and
Yeah.
the one of the military guys. I can't think of his name. He was very much like he did a bunch of '90s things. Like he was on Boy Meets World. He was Sean's dad. He was on Home Improvement. Like he was like
Oh yeah.
I can't think of his name. I don't know his name, but
I know
yeah,
what you're talking about. Yeah, he like that's why he looks super familiar to me. Yeah,
yeah,
no, it was kind of like this movie was just kind of like a random who's of like cameos and celebrity appearances. It felt like
yeah.
because like hell, even The Rock, like he felt like he was like an overglorified cameo because it didn't seem like he was in the movie that much, and like his
Yeah.
betrayal seemed like a complete like out of left field because he has zero character development throughout this entire movie.
Which is, I mean, villains don't change.
Yeah, I know, but I
Yeah,
mean, he's just like his whole character can be summed up. He's the hotshot agent that everyone wants to be and strives to be, and that's pretty much it. Like he just has like he kind of has a bit of an ego on him. He doesn't really do any like the office stuff, and then just out of nowhere, it's like, oh, by the way, I'm the bad guy.
Yeah, I think it would have been interesting if there was more really subtle some kind of subtle hint,
Yeah.
like maybe he's leading him into a trap, or he's what, you know, like whatever, but like he's there isn't really any evidence up until the only giveaway, and it's not even really a giveaway, when
They
bef-
they just discovered that
he
he's just like, hey, you have like a bunch of radiation on you.
well
Like, shit.
that but also there is a part in the beginning where he and Steve Carell are, you know, practicing, you know, like at shooting target practice, like they're
Yeah,
playing
yeah,
like
they're playing
paintball,
they're playing paintball.
and he is like, and the Rock is bleeding, and he's like, it's like an old stab wound. When my blood starts pumping, it starts to seep. So when he's stressed or whatever, his blood pressure rises and it starts to bleed. And so later, when he's being discovered as the bad guy, you can see, and they point out that his like wound is like seeping. So that's the only, and I think that would have
Yeah.
been a nice little, that would have been interesting if, like, I agree, if there was, it didn't need to, I agree that there wasn't really much character development for him, but he's honestly the one that I care the least about of having any character development. If anything, I would have
Yeah.
rather have a little bit more I don't know. Basically, like I said, this movie seems to think there's a lot more emotional uh content and development. Yes, so
Connections. Yeah.
99 and Steve Carell start to, or and Max start to kind of, it's pushing them in the direction of like romance, but it doesn't, I don't think there's, it's just, I don't want to say if they have zero chemistry. I thought they like worked well together. It was just romantically, I was like, I don't kind of really buy it.
I
Yeah,
didn't
and
see it.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like, because the majority of the movie, it's Anne Hathaway is just kind of like grumbling and complaining at like Steve Carell's like almost lethal incompetence. Like the fact that he hasn't accidentally killed himself multiple times is only because she has intervened at his on his
yeah,
behalf. Like he's
there's
almost like, yeah. Like there's multiple times where like if she wasn't around for like that X amount of time, he would have like somehow killed himself or gotten himself killed, which happens like almost like in the beginning of the mission. He like ejects himself out of the plane after shooting himself in the face with a harpoon like 12
so
times
basically,
because
well,
comedy.
so right before he leaves, so Bruce and Lloyd, they're the two like IT uh like tech guys who, like, you know, design like gadgets and stuff. They give him a,
Yeah, they're basically the equivalent of
yeah,
Q from
they
James
assign
Bond.
they give him a like a Swiss Army knife, and it has like, comes with like a mini harpoon and a flamethrower and shit, like all these things. And so while on the plane, he is using a match to get gum off of his shoe, and people think it's a shoe bomb, and he gets arrested, and he's, you
Yeah,
know, tied, his hands are tied, and he
yeah. Also, how the hell did he get matches onto a
I
plane?
yeah.
Like, I understand he's a spy and he has like a bunch of like hidden compartments, but he just pulled that out of like his jacket
Yeah,
pocket.
I thought,
Like, it's like this is post 9/11. There's no way you managed to get that just casually in your pocket.
I will agree that that was something I noticed, where the best jokes in this movie were the ones that were the actions that led to the joke were organic, whereas a lot of them, like this joke, it's like either the thing that they did to the joke is funny, but the joke only happened because of the previous action, and it's an action that didn't need to happen, or there, it's a little
Yeah,
unbelievable that so like, for example, there, when after, so control is like breached, and they have a like a meet where the chief, so Alan Arkin, is like talking about like what's going on and what the plan is, and Max suggests they go into the cone of silence, and they all groan and complain about it, and it's just like basically like a force field kind of thing that protects them, and they're all in it, and they're all groaning about it. Nobody wants to do it, and apparently it's not 100% ready, and Larrabee is like feeling suffocated in it, and then immediately they turn it off, and it was like, so nobody wanted to do it, so there
It's
was
like,
really no point of them for doing it. The only reason why they did it was because to lead to another joke, which I actually like this joke way more, where Steve Carell is named he's agent, is it 83 or 86? 86, and
86.
he's like, can I have the cone? And he presses it, but he doesn't press it hard enough. So he's just standing away from everybody going, I'm so happy, this is the best day of my life, and screaming, and then brings it back, and they're like, you didn't press it hard enough so we could hear you. And he's like, oh.
It's
And
like,
then just
so you
move
all
on. Like,
yes,
that
yes,
joke I
yes,
thought was really funny, but the first use of the cone of silence, I'm like, this doesn't really make sense. They don't need to use it. Nobody wanted them to use it.
Well, I think I mean, it makes sense for context of the audience because we have no
Right.
idea what the cone of silence is. We don't know what that does. So for him to just use that and be like, "Oh, this is the greatest day of my life," yeah, we don't know what that. Like, we
No,
can kind of assume.
yeah, in
Because,
that no, I get
yeah,
that, but it's like it's more of just the fact that nobody, even the chief, wanted to use it, and then they immediately turn it off. I just felt like it could have been written in a way where it made a little bit more like sense, as opposed to even the boss doesn't want to use it, and then
yeah,
he a minute after they turn is the one that's like, like, we're not doing this. It's like, so then there was no point in doing it in the first place.
yeah, and it. Honestly, I didn't even
Yeah,
find that joke that funny, and it just seems like this movie is just chock full of like sequence jokes that just build up to a punchline that isn't worth the setup. Like they spend so much time on like this stupidly convoluted setup for a punchline that is just
like I said, I
not
think
worth
the
it,
best
like
jokes are
at
the
all.
ones where the action makes sense, so the joke makes sense because, and it's funnier. Like I think one of my favorite jokes, maybe my favorite line in this movie, is right at the beginning. So, like we said, Max is an analyst. He's really detail oriented, and he makes these like really, really detailed, like hundreds of pages of like research, listening. He basically is just listening to like these chaos of like,
Just
and they're
mundane
basically
conversations. Yeah.
how,
It's like, hey, how's your coffee? It's
and
good. How's your
and the
muffin?
chief
It
is
is
like,
also good. It's
muffin's a
like,
code
what
word.
the
He's like,
okay.
no, it's comfort food, and frankly much more fattening than most people realize, which begs the question, why are two
Yeah.
hardened chaos agents risk the carbs? Like that.
Yeah.
I love that
Also,
joke.
they mention like carbs
They
multiple
they
times in this
do.
movie. It's like, what is this? Is this like a secret like Weight Watchers like
If
propaganda
anything, it's
movie?
not. It's
Because
not
like
because
they
Subway seems to be a sponsor, because you see Subway a couple of times in the movie.
yeah, but it seems so weird that like they mention like, this is worth the carbs. Like,
That joke, see, this joke,
what?
I agree
Like,
with you about that, because there's a part later where they're at a restaurant when they're in Russia, and Agent 99 is like, so how do you know this place? And he's like, I hear a lot of stuff, listening, like listening to all these conversations, and he's like, I don't remember what the restaurant was called, but it was like they all have like a insk at the end. So he adds like it doesn't get any better than insk. See what I just did there? And then and he makes a comment about how she slapped him earlier, and he's like, is that just your default? Like, oh, we're doing this. I better punch Max in the face. Oh, I'm having some bread. I better punch Max in the face. And then she says, I agree. This part I was like, what the fuck was the point of this? She goes, I love bread, and I know it's got carbs, but I've never been afraid of carbs, because every time, it seems like no matter how many I eat, I stay thinsk. And the joke was, okay, she's also doing an insk thing,
yeah.
but like, I agree about the carbs thing. Like, there was no what? Like, it.
It just it there's like it shows like they mention like carbs and like, okay, we get it. Steve Carell used to be fat. Like there's like that's a recurring thing, is that like he recently
Yeah.
lost 150 pounds. And like there's multiple times where we have like flashbacks where we see a picture of what he used to be, and it's just Steve Carell in a fat suit. And it's like, oh, okay, is this important to the plot?
Yeah.
No? Okay, thanks for mentioning it, because it does not impact the story in
No.
any meaningful way. He doesn't seem to have like any inklings of like, oh, he's like has like almost like a like not anorexic, but like he has like fat shaming issues or anything like that,
Yeah,
or like issues of like body proportion issues. So it's like, why even make this a thing for his character if it's not going to impact the story in any
I agree with that.
way,
I
like
didn't
at
think
all.
it didn't really add anything to his character other than like a couple, like there was a joke later where so the restaurant they picked is a favorite of Lattice Las Cristics, and they see someone picking up food for him and they follow him, and he starts, while they're like staking him out and watching, he's opening up a like a protein bar, and he's like, I didn't get to eat at the restaurant, and if you don't eat, then the next meal you overindulge. And then she takes it and like throws it away, and he's like, you owe me $3. I did like that joke.
It's like, you owe me $3.
But I agree, but yeah, like
that,
it didn't,
that
other
joke
than a
was
couple
funny.
of jokes, it didn't really add that much to his character. And especially because aside from he really, in the beginning, he really, really wants to be an agent. It's his dream to become an agent, but he's like the top analyst. And I really love his relationship with the chief. I think is my favorite because it's like he's their boss, he's his boss, but it's almost
Yeah,
kind of like
they
fatherly.
yeah
Like basically, he really wants to be an agent, and he says,
yeah
"I know in the past my weight was an issue because he was overweight, so he couldn't do all the things he would need to do." And
he couldn't complete the obstacle
basically,
course. Yeah,
but it seems like even if that, it seems like that wasn't even the only reason why he wasn't made into an agent. And Alan Arkin says, I know how much you want this, but I can't promote you because I can't afford to lose my best analysts. Like, and there's when he is actually out there, you see
yeah.
Larrabee and Agent 91 like struggling, and you hear Bruce and Lloyd make a comment being like, it takes 8 of these guys to do like what Max can do. Like, he's so good that, so that is more
Yeah.
important than him, than his previous like like being overweight. It wasn't, I agree, it was also kind of like fat jokes are kind of on their way out now, and that's definitely a joke that wouldn't fly today. And it wasn't
Yeah.
even that funny. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, no, like it, like, I mean, like at the time, like fat jokes were
Yeah.
still kind of like a thing for at the time, and but it was just
No.
like they didn't use that at all. Like they had the ammo, they had the gun, they just didn't pull the trigger. And it's just like, okay, like I thought we were gonna kind of get like a Paul Blart like mall cop kind of like body positivity kind of message from that. It's like, okay, like I can get behind that. And they just went nowhere with it. It's like, oh yeah, I used to be fat, and all right, let's go stop the bad guys. Like, okay, why even mention it if it's not gonna like make your character like more of a character? You're a walking, talking, like caricature of like body shame and like of like all these like different messages that
The
like could go
the
somewhere, and they just
yeah.
completely
The
flub it
one
up.
scene
And it's
that I
like,
think
why even bother?
you could argue in defense of his, well, okay, so the one scene that I think this, the only reason this kind of sort of works, and even then again, I don't think this is that necessary of a background for his character, but the scene where they are at Chris Dix's party, and Anne Hathaway, so Agent 99, she's dancing with him, and Max asks someone to dance, and you think it's this like skinny blonde girl, and she's like, ugh, no, gross. And he's like, I wasn't talking to you. And it was this overweight girl behind her. But like, and the thing is, like, they
It's,
dance, and it's actually really funny, and
yeah,
she was so great. Like, she was funny, and she like, you could argue, and he like, you could argue it's a like, you know, it's also a
yeah.
self confidence thing and insecurity, and like I don't know,
Yeah,
it
exactly. Like I
was
thought they were gonna kind of go for like a body, positive body, positive
positive body
body
image.
like image like
Yes.
thing, because like they already introduced like established that like he used to be fat. Oh, I lost 150 pounds, and then she's like, oh, so did I, and she's still like, you know, like really
Mm-hmm.
overweight. It's like, okay, yeah, like you do you, like you have fun, like you be comfortable in your own body. If you are comfortable like being this and
Yeah.
are still like living like a healthy lifestyle, then yeah, you do your own thing. Like that would have been great. But this also led. This is kind of a tangent, but this also led to like a nitpick inconsistency that like once I realized it, like drove me up the fucking wall. So during this dance, like there's a whole thing where like she jumps into his arms and he lifts her over his head, and she's like 3 times his size and weight. So it's like she's massive compared to Steve Carell,
Yeah.
and like he does that, and it's like he's able to hold her up and like dip her, and like once he's dipping her, like you can see like he's starting to struggle, and they do that, but he's able to do it like on his own. He's able to lift this woman over his head for like I saw like 10-15 seconds, and then
Yeah.
later on in the movie, there he gets like to like the bakery where like they're like the chaos like headquarters, or like they're secretly like having all the bombs.
Yeah.
He gets locked in like this torture room by Siegfried and his like right hand man like Starker. He knocks
Yeah.
out Starker, and then he's struggling to pick him up to get him to like the retinal scanner, and of course some guy walks by and it looks like he's humping him, so it's like haha, gay joke in 2008, ha, wacky. But he can't pick up Starker, and he looks like he's half the way to this woman. So it's like,
That's
what?
a
Okay,
really good
why
point.
why are you having a hard time picking up someone who's half the way to someone that you just lifted up over your head with no problem whatsoever, and now you're struggling to lift a man who is like laying down on a table? You're not even lifting him up from like a prone position. Like this should be easy for
That's
you.
a really good. I did not think about that at all.
And I don't know why that drove me up the wall, but it did.
That's a really good point. I didn't think about that, but
Yeah.
yeah. In conclusion, yeah, there's the the fat jokes are just kind of unnecessary, and it's definitely, yeah, it's very much a 2008. They wouldn't. There's no way they would have gotten away with
Yeah.
that today.
Well, they didn't even really like
Do it.
use any
Yeah,
fat
they
jokes that
no,
much.
they didn't. I just think, and it's not even that he used to be fat. It was just, I agree. It should have been. I mean, like, okay, there. Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of like insecurities or things that he would I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know what to say about it. It was just something that I was like, this wouldn't fly today. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm someone who, and I know it's mild compared to like how extreme it can go. I struggled with my weight in like high school, whatnot, and I have, I've lost weight. I still have like a ways to go, but I've lost weight, and I still struggle,
Oh, good
and
for
I still
you.
yeah, I still struggle with like those some of those issues I have don't go away, like that's, and that I
Yeah.
agree that could have been, but also it's not that kind of movie, so really it's just
No, it's not. But I mean, they like. I mean, it's also like that wasn't also like a thing in like Paul Blart Mall Cop, but they still had like a very like positive body image
yeah.
like a theme throughout that movie. Like it's like, yeah, like I have like this medical condition that basically makes it so like my blood spikes super low, so I have to have like a constant like
Oh
sugar
yeah.
intake, and that's why I'm like fat. Like there's like some kind of like
Right.
random like MacGuffin for like why he's like that like fat, but it's like, no, but like I'm happy with this. Like I'm still like very active for my job, and he's like saves the day, even though he's like was like hypoglycemia or something like that. I don't know if like that's actually how it works, but that's how it works in the sake of the movie, so that's what I'm going off of. And I'm surprised at how much I'm talking about Paul Blart Mall Cop for this
Yeah.
movie. Um, but it does have a similar theme between both these movies of showing like a similar amount of how one's like body weight can be a hindrance, because in the beginning of that movie he's trained to be a cop and he fails the obstacle course, and Steve Carell in the beginning of this movie in flashbacks he fails the obstacle course because of his body weight, and the parallels are there. They very easily could have done something like Paul Blart Mall Cop of doing this like, hey, I'm not going to let uh something like this be a hindrance to me, and I'm gonna get in shape, and he does, but like we don't see any of the progress. We just see the end result and what he used to be. We don't see his I don't know, his ambition on him trying to stay fit or anything like that, or any like lingering insecurities about his body weight, other than like he had like a bad
Yeah.
dream where the his like prison guards like shove like a cake through like a mail slot, and he's just eating it like he's like a
Yeah.
caveman, and he just wakes up and is like, I'm fat. Like
Yeah. I think
that's it.
that was the one overall. It yeah, like it. There are other movies that utilize it um, better, and this it's just kind of it's just there solely for a laugh, and that's about it. And I agree. If anything, I was just like, it's this wouldn't be okay. I mean, technically it's still not even. I don't even know. It's just it doesn't need to be there really. That's the bottom line. But um,
Yeah.
it gives it the only thing is it gives us more insight into his background, whereas Agent 99 we don't really know that much about her, which is one of the reasons why I their kind of slowly budding relationship is a little unlikely. like okay,
Forced.
they when they there's like a whole fight sequence in after at the party in the house. And actually that house, is that the X-Men house?
I don't know. It kind of looks like it, but
It
I'm not
looked kind of like
100%
it.
on that. I have no idea.
There it's okay. It looked kind of, the stairwell in one of the scenes looked the same. But anyway, and the next day he's saying like, I think we work really well together and blah blah blah. And she's like, I learned this is something I had to learn the hard way. You can't trust anyone, not even me. Like I could be they basically think there's a mole inside Control, and she's like, it could be me. You have no way of knowing. And they don't that never
Comes
really,
back
like,
again.
okay, how did she no, especially because we find out later he's asking her, well, in this particular scene he's just like, okay, and then he's like, what are you talking, like she's got it going on, and he's like, what are you talking about? And I kind of realized, I think at this point it actually makes, of course he's intrigued by her, she's like the sexy spy,
Yeah.
but on her end, of course I realize now, I'm like, if anything it makes a little bit more sense for her to fall for him first, because she knows more about him, because he's completely the opposite of herself as well as anyone she's ever worked
Yeah.
with. And then we find out later when he asks like, why did you change your face, not like just, oh, like why did you really change your face? And she says it was because she was involved with someone from work, and she lost focus, the mission blew up, and her identity was revealed, and so she had to change her looks. And she apparently, the only real emotional content we really get from her is that she used to look like her mom,
Yeah.
but she had to do this if she wanted to keep
Uh,
being an agent.
yeah.
And it's like, that's interesting. But also we find out later, and it's like, oh, so is her mom still alive? What's her family situation? As well as like, we find out later that the agent she was involved with was 23, so The Rock.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, is the whole finding out, like the whole, I had to learn the hard way, is that you can't trust anybody, was that wasn't him. And we know that wasn't him because later when it's revealed that he's a bad guy, she's like, I can't believe none of us saw it, especially me. And it makes the most sense why she would be the most upset that she didn't notice. So I'm like, what's that situation? Basically,
Yeah,
there's
and
a lot.
like also like was this, yeah, like how long was like their relationship? Did they have like was this like an ongoing relationship for like
Yeah.
a really, yeah, like they we get no real context. And also when like Max is like asking her questions like, tell me you didn't feel anything last night, and it's like he makes it come across that like, did they sleep with each other, and like
I
the
don't.
during the and
Yeah.
we like have like someone of an idea that they didn't, but he's asking it in a way that the like the chief and 23 in the car with them is like, did you guys hook up on that mission? Because the way he's asking it
Yeah.
very much like makes it seem like that's what happened.
Which I'm wondering if something got cut. I definitely, because we do see later. So the whole like sequence at the bakery is he basically puts like it's filled. They're using yellow cake iridium to like make explosives, and he
Yeah,
puts like some basically they blow it up, but he only puts enough. He says to bury the weapons lab, not to like actually cause
like
radioactive destruction. And
yeah, I'm not gonna blow up the
yeah,
uranium.
and 23 does a sweep, says there's nothing here. It's just a bakery, and then apparent and
Also, hold on.
yeah,
I want
yeah, yeah.
to cut in right here. So we see he's cutting in there, and you see like when he's like talking to like Anne Hathaway and the chief that is like, oh, it's completely clean here, and you see there are other people like walking around in there. So it's like either they are all chaos agents or control agents that are like working with 23, so basically double agents, or they are all just like moronically incompetent at their job that they didn't pick up any residual radiation and only the rock picked it up for some reason. Because like there's no way they would just send one agent into the field to sweep for radiation. And he's not even wearing a hazmat suit. He knows that there's radiation there. Like out of everyone there,
That's
he's the only one who knows that there is like radioactive harmful material in that area that is now probably unstable because it's gotten buried in a ton of rubble. So it's like, why aren't you wearing protection?
maybe that's supposed to be a
Everyone
hint
like everyone else
that.
I know.
But
It
I
just
didn't think I never picked up
it
on
was
that.
just such a
That's a
weird
good point.
thing.
I didn't pick
Yeah.
up on that.
So it's like either Control seriously needs to clean house on like double agents or check in to make sure that, they didn't hire a bunch of like, you know, more Larrabees and 91s that are just seem like moronically incompetent. Or did Dwayne The Rock Johnson just like have the uranium moved before they got there? And if that's the case, why is he still covered in like a ton of radiation that it sets off Max's Geiger counter? And why does it set it off like 30 minutes after they've been hanging out together? Like, why does it
I
set off
think
the
he
Geiger counter
wasn't.
so much later after they've been around each
That's what I
other?
always wondered, because that's a good point, because the first we don't know he has this watch until he's in the bathroom at the restaurant, and knowing that there's a lot of chaos agents, he's peeing. There's a joke of him peeing and trying to listen to their conversation, and he keeps stopping,
Yeah.
and then
Which is why this movie reminds me so much of Austin Powers, because like the whole when he gets to Frosty, he's peeing for like 5 minutes straight, and it's like this is literally the same
he
joke.
is wiping, using a towel to wash his hands, and he's like setting his towel down, and he's right next to the guy, and so his watch is going off. He's like, "Oh, it's time to take my pills," and then he gets back to the table. He tells 99, he's like, "Okay, there was a guy in the bathroom who was really hot." She's like, okay, okay, and he's like,
Okay,
no,
gonna
like
unpack
radiation,
that.
radioactive hot. Okay, he does have a certain ruggedness that some find appealing, but I that joke I thought was funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, the his watch can detect radioactivity, that's handy. That seems really handy, and I do agree.
Yeah.
When they get back to
No.
the U.S., he is sitting in the back with 23, but he's not. I don't know. I'm kind of wondering, maybe he has to be really close to them, and he's pretty close, but he's not. His arm is not on the rock, so.
I mean, they're like what, like a foot and a half away from each other. Like that's more or less the same distance that he had with like the guy that he like hit the Geiger counter with.
Yeah,
in the
I did. That's a
bathroom.
good point.
Like that, it's more or less like the same distance, and it just like if your gadget is on the fritz, then tell the audience or something like that. If it's some kind of like glitch in the gadget, otherwise keep with like the internal rules on what this movie has stated before. Otherwise, it's not going to make any sense because it goes off like 30 minutes later after they've done like the whole sweep of like going around and uh it's like, oh, we're going to check out the concert hall. It's like, okay, there's nothing here. It's like, okay, we're going to go into the car. Okay, there's nothing here. We're going to get in the helicopter. There's nothing here. Like he's been with the Rock like the entire time. So it's like the fact that it doesn't go off until like the very end of that whole spectacle of like, oh, okay, I'm done with this. And also, the Rock is carrying around the launch codes the entire time. No one questions what that metal briefcase is until the very, very end of like, the jig is up, Dwayne the Rock
Yeah, I
Johnson.
agree. Him being, it kind of honestly almost seems like that was. I don't know enough about the original show, so I can't go based on that. But it seems
It
it seemed very much like
it
that
just
kind of
seemed like
came
a
up
cop out.
at like towards the end. Like they were struggling. They needed a twist, or they needed. I agree that there is for a bad guy who is pretending to, who is a double agent. It seems like he is being really careless, and yeah, he's just carrying around. But I also do think the briefcase, like, he's a spy.
Yeah,
We don't think that much of it, but I do agree that as an audience, we don't think that much of
yeah,
it. But at the same time, he's just carrying that around with
yeah.
him,
No,
like,
like it makes sense that
yeah,
he's a spy. Of course, he's gonna carry around like a metal case like that. But it's like, but if he's like been this like meticulous about like hiding his identity from like the agency on all this stuff, why would you carry around the launch codes for something like it made no sense to me on like why are you carrying them? Why didn't you give them like to Siegfried so that way when he gets like potentially caught, you're in the clear. And as far as we know, I don't think we know if Siegfried knows that Agent 23 is his boss or anything like that. There's no indication on
his
what.
voice is disguised. Yeah, whenever they
Yeah, yeah,
talk.
yeah, yeah. There's no indication that like they actually know if Agent 23 is like part of Chaos or anything like that. All we see is like 23 like working on his own or like making like the like disguise like calls. So it's like there's no real risk for him involved, but there is a risk when you're carrying the one thing connecting you to the bomb that is going to kill the president, like half of Los Angeles. So it just
Yeah, it doesn't.
he put himself in the line of fire for no reason.
Yeah, and it it also, it just, what's his motivation? Like, why is he doing this? Like, I mean, even if it
But
was,
money, I guess, because
but they
they like
never make. I mean, they never really talk
no.
about it. It's very much. I agree.
I mean,
He.
not like Siegfried like makes a demand for like $30 billion, like $300 billion or something like that.
I mean, okay, but like, it doesn't. For no, not for him, but why is like the Rock? Like, it just doesn't. I agree. It's kind of a cop out. It's like kind of a
Yeah,
fun twist. Like, it's. I remember the first time I was shocked, but like, looking, you
yeah,
made, yeah, there are valid points of like, it is a little bit of a cop out, and there's just not a lot of like, okay, is he like, has he always been a chaos agent? Did he like turn? Because in the very beginning, he's just coming back from a mission, and then he's grounded
yeah. He
because so
because all the agents have been like discovered. But yeah, it just he has no character for this to be like a shock. It's like, oh, you were the best of us. We trusted you. How could you betray us like this? Like this isn't like an Anakin moment of like you were the chosen one. Like it just
yeah,
it's like, oh no, the quarterback is
but
evil. Like,
also
okay, who gives
but
a shit?
also even when like they think that Max is a double agent for a minute, like, okay, 99's pretty heartbroken, and the chief is just saying like, I'm really disappointed in you, Max. Like, it's like, and I really do love their relationship. I think they in this, but I also, it's like, he should be the one taking it the hardest out of everybody.
Yeah, yeah, he's like, I'm really disappointed in you, man. He's like saying he's like scolding his like son who he caught smoking. Like he's not taking this like as hard as he should. It's like you just realize your best analyst is probably a double agent, and you're like, I should have known better. I blame myself, honestly.
But
It's like,
we
fuck,
have
okay,
to talk about the president in this.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's
James
it's
Caan.
James Caan, and I realized he seems to just pop in. I know he seems to do his random ass movies, like he
Like
like
Santa's
what was it?
Sleigh.
Santa Sleigh. There's a
Yeah.
movie I haven't seen it, but I kind of want to. It's called Sicilian Vampire. It's a passion project, and he's in that. But it sounds like from what I hear, it sounds like he's not taking it seriously at all. Which why would you, based
A
on uh
Sicilian vampire?
yeah, it's a bad movie. I haven't seen
Okay.
it, but I've heard about it. But anyway, he just seems to do random stuff, which I find funny. But also in this, it's supposed to be kind of like a parody of George Bush, who was
Oh
still
yeah,
president at the
definitely.
time. Like he's not saying nuclear correctly, and
Yeah, he's like
he
kind of bumbling.
it's
Like,
kind of
yeah.
at the heat. So the reason they believe there is a bomb in LA, and there's a there's a concert that is being held at the Walt Disney Concert Hall, and
He's falling
he's
asleep during
attending.
the performance.
He's attending, and then they realize that the bomb is hidden somewhere in. They already kind of think it's probably hidden in there, but then they find out that it's gonna end. So Siegfried the whole time is kind of casually, and I thought, see, this I thought was a really nice, subtle little indicator of what was to come, because he's constantly listening to classical music, or he's playing Ode to Joy on his violin, and there's a part when Max meets him, and he's pretending to obviously not be a control agent, and he's playing
Yeah.
Ode to Joy, and he's like, "Oh, Beethoven's Ninth," and he's like, "Yes, I've always
I
loved it."
especially enjoy how it ends with a bang.
Like, there's night. It's a good rule of kind of threes. Like they did it enough times that it makes sense why this happens, and so they realize that, oh my god, the concert. The bomb is going to go off at the end of the Ode to Joy, so they have to stop the concert. And when he runs in and tackles the conductor, and then James Caan like wakes up, and then is like he's clapping like a little kid. um, but like, which also it occurred to me. I live right by downtown. Like the concert hall is like little over a mile away from me. So it occurred to me, if like a radio,
Oh my god, you're in the
I
blast
know, I was
zone.
like, if a radioactive bomb went off, I would definitely die. I would not survive at all. I'm too close to it.
You would be Ash.
Because we're so close
Yeah.
to it. But yeah, and there's a whole like sequence that I do think the sequence is really funny. They realized, 23 is the bad guy. He takes 99. And it's funny, he puts her in the car. The camera goes back to Chief and Max for a second, and then it goes back to Agent 23 and 99, and her hands are tied. And I'm like, when did he have time to tie her hands? Like, there was not enough time.
Yeah, you've been. Yeah, he's like, you've been driving this entire time.
Before he starts driving, we see through the window her hands are tied, and I'm like, how did he did not have enough time to do that? But anyway, they commandeer this. I don't know who it is. It's a government. It's someone they know.
It's like
but we don't think we ever meet them.
Yeah. It's like who is this person? I've never seen this person.
But they take his car, and he's just like, they're driving, and Max is just like, you know what, Chief? I can totally understand why you were so disappointed in me. That how I feel about Agent 23, and of course the Chief is just like, oh, watch for this car, watch for this, and then they're on a golf course.
It's like,
and everybody's like hitting them with golf balls, and then they run into like a restaurant, and a swordfish like breaks through the window, and the point is like pointing right at Alan Arkin's head. And this is my family's other favorite line in the movie, when Steve Carell's like, they see they're right by an airport.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Are you thinking what I'm thinking? And the Chief is like, I don't know. Are you thinking, holy shit, a swordfish almost went through my head? If so, yes. He is 100% the best thing about this movie. Like, I wish he was in it more. He's in it a fair amount, but I wish he was in it even more.
And to be fair, that is probably like one of the best.
And then they commandeer a plane, and they spotted 23 and 99, and Max tries to get closer, so it's pulling a banner. It's one of like a banner plane, and it's a banner that just says 1-800-suicide hotline. Like, oh, it's suicide hotline 1-800 don't do it. And he's just hanging on for dear life.
And you see him hanging on that banner. It's like, oh, okay.
And
that's a bit of a dark joke.
But then we get to, I think, the another really good joke. So earlier in the movie, when they first like they basically eject themselves and like parachute out of a plane when they're flying to Russia, and one of the chaos like henchmen, Delete, is like following them, and he grabs
who is just a mountain of a man.
Yes,
man
he's huge.
And also his actual name is Delete.
Yes, it is. And he's holding on to. They're like plummeting towards Earth, and he's like literally hugging and holding on to Anne Hathaway and Steve Carell, and then to let him go, she kisses him, and so basically the Rock, they're on top of the car fighting for the briefcase, and the Rock is like holding him down, and so Max like pulls him and kisses him and then startles him and punches him, and then you see the chief is still in the plane. He goes, unusual but effective. Like,
I mean, it's like, yeah,
see,
I mean, that's those are
see
results.
That's a joke that, like, okay, he saw Anne Hathaway do it and it worked. It makes sense why it occurred. Like, I don't know. See, that's a joke where everything makes sense, so the joke is really funny. It wasn't just set up. Like, even if it just happened in that one time, fine. But it happened again because it's funnier because he's, like, kissing the Rock. But that's another joke that I really like. And then we think, kind of fast-forwarding a little bit, they're trying to get off the car, and then they're about to hit a train, and you think Steve Carell, he pushes 99, you think he's been hit by a train, and he hasn't.
Yeah, and it's a total fake-out death. And it's like, oh, missed it by that much.
Yeah.
And we also find out that because he was being dragged by, like, the banner on the train tracks, that's like, oh, he's going to have some, like, major road rash. It's like, no, he's running completely unaware that his pants are completely ripped. So when he, like, gets into the concert hall and he's, like, bowing to everyone, his bare ass is, like,
CGI showing. Ass.
How did you not feel... It's like, how did you not feel that there was a cool breeze when you were running for, like, 3 miles from, like, the train tracks to, like, the concert hall? How did you not realize that, like, you are just running, like, completely, like, bare ass the entire time?
But that's also the scene where, he bends down and bowing, and everyone's like, ah! And even, like, and James Caan, the president, is like, like, clapping like a little kid.
It's like, oh, this is a funny,
like,
this is a funny son of a bitch.
I just love when he does tackle the conductor, and he wakes, he's like, oh, I like that bit at the end. Like, he's definitely...
Like, yeah, he thinks this is part of the show.
Is definitely... I really like this movie. I think it's got a lot of laughs, but I do agree there's things that don't really hold up. Maybe just, didn't need to happen. Like, there are issues with it, and I agree. I noticed it more so this time around than obviously when I will say the one thing that kind of, as a kid, I noticed was, I think when Steve Carell and Anne Hathaway kiss, I think it just felt weird because I, associated Anne Hathaway in a way, and Steve Carell, I was, I knew who both these people were. They were just not a couple that I would have believed. And so when they kissed, and even as a kid, something about it seemed weird. And I realize now it's just because I don't really buy that. I feel like, do I believe that maybe they kind of like each other? Sure. But I think it wasn't warranted.
They're romantically involved?
No, it was mainly just there wasn't enough emotional content in the story for me to believe that they would, like, end up together. But they worked well together. Like, they were a fun duo. I do think.
Like, they had chemistry. It didn't
chemistry.
Seem like it would spark, like anything like that.
So overall, I mean, it's kind of a fun movie, I think. Kevin, you would say this is totally real, right?
No, not at all. Not even the slightest amount do I think this is real.
Yeah, I'm
My point
trying. Yeah.
my main point is the fact that the entire like beginning of this movie, we see Chaos has been stealing a massive stockpile of yellow cake uranium, and it's like that. The fact that they were able to steal that much in that amount of time without anyone realizing it, with like so many, with no loose ends whatsoever, and we see that Siegfried is pretty casual about killing his henchmen, is like, why would any of the henchmen have any loyalty to someone like that? It makes no sense that there weren't any like internal leaks within Chaos that would lead to either the American government or the European government being involved to stopping that, or at least having some major roadblocks set up for Chaos rather than just Control, who, to the public knowledge, both of these spy agencies no longer exist. So it makes no sense that Chaos was able to completely do everything that they accomplished in the movie completely unhindered by literally anyone except for like 5 agents total.
Yeah, I think there's even a joke where Starsky says, like, I want to quit, but what can I do? He's married to my sister, Siegfried. And it's like, if
Yeah,
anything, you totally could quit because he's married to your sister, so she can probably keep you alive. I mean, depending on how much he respects her. But yeah,
yeah,
like, and
yeah,
I agree on that, but also um the concept, it's like, when you really think about it, does this concept work in a modern day setting? And I'm kind of like,
it
yes, no. Like, they made it work, but there are things, like, it's because really it is a, modern version of Get Smart, which was again in the 60s. So
yeah. So like there are elements that work, but overall, I feel like they needed to modernize it a bit more for like the motive and like how the bad guy was able to complete this. Like if they were like kind of doing something like in Resident Evil, like Umbrella Company is like a legitimate company that has like this secret like ulterior motive and like all these secret hidden facilities. Like they have a public face and then they also have a dark side. Like if Chaos did something like that, I feel like it would have kind of worked. And then Control would have just been like completely like hid in the shadows. Like Control, I like the Control seemed fine to me, but Chaos, we really know nothing about their structure, how it works, how it operates. So it makes their accomplishments seem so much more far fetched when all we're seeing is just how it's being done. How I'm assuming how they've been completing it the entire
yeah,
time. It's like if it's just 3 guys breaking into a pretty much abandoned warehouse and then burning it down, then like how were you able to do this? And also, why are you storing yellow cake uranium in an abandoned
there
storage
was also, I
facility?
will say, there, I did love when they find the air quotes bakery with all the yellow cake uranium, and he's talking to Agent 99. He's like, he's like, I found the yellow cake. And she's like, well, yeah, it's a bakery. He's like, no, not yellow cake, yellow cake uranium. Oh, although there is yellow cake. And it's like
Uh,
some workers stopping and having like a birthday.
yeah, and like a bunch of the minions
It's
are
like
having like
they're
a
all in like
birthday.
yellow
Yeah,
suits. um,
they are.
yeah.
Um, yeah, no, like that's a crossover everyone's waiting for. The Get Smart meets Despicable
Um,
Me.
um,
Don't lie, you've been waiting for that
yeah,
for
I think,
years.
obviously I'm biased because I grew up with this movie. I think but I do kind of agree, like, yeah, it's not really, I was thinking about it. I'm like, there were a lot of things that I'm like, yeah, this is plausible, but there was also, I was actually at the very end, I was kind of wondering on how, so the Secret Service, they go to the Secret Service and say, we think there's a bomb planted somewhere here. And they're
Yeah, and they completely
and they're
disregard
like, we've
that.
done a sweep and blah blah blah. And then later when they stop the concert, they uh Max gives a total guess. He's like, "Would you believe it be hidden in the piano?" And they're like, "Whoa, how did we miss that?" And I'm kind of just wondering, like, yeah, how did they miss
Yeah, how did
this? But
how
also, would they have thought to check the piano? It's just kind of and also it's like, I guess it makes, because really they could have, the bomb could have been planted as long as it heard the music.
literally
Yeah, it could have
anywhere.
been planted anywhere. So I guess it makes sense why it's there, but I can't decide how realistic it is that either they didn't find it or they didn't check of it. So then, what is their sweep? Pretty much anything that has a
Yeah,
hollow, and a piano is not empty. Obviously, there's stuff inside, but there is room that
yeah.
was able to store a bomb.
Yeah,
So like,
and also I think like it's like I'm not sure if this is standard procedure, but I'm pretty sure like the Secret Service, whenever they receive like any tip of a credible threat, so like three government agents saying, "Hey, there's a bomb in here," I think they have to like like
yeah,
like I think they legally have to do like a sweep and search to like verify if that is credible, because like if they're wrong, then they're out of the job and also dead, and so is the president and all these other people that are there. So it's like, okay, like yes, these people, this agency messed up like royally once, as far as you know, and as far as the public knows, this is like the only like major like fuck up that control has done. So it's like, okay, we're going to completely disregard years and decades of your agency's worth and value because you blew up one building that didn't have what an agent said it was. So it's like that's such bullshit.
yeah. I'm kind of with you. While I was watching it, it was funny because I was asking. Sometimes when I'm watching something, I'm asking myself like, how believable or how real is this? And like, it's weird because I realized there's I there's a lot of things in here that I can totally be like, whatever, just I believe it, movie logic, whatever. I feel like it's a lot of the little things that I just kind of don't. It's kind of that same. It's the situation of the like real, like very like realistic real world things, such as
Yeah,
if there's a bomb threat, even if it's not real, the Secret Service is going to react. It's stuff like that. That's just I don't
yeah,
buy.
like people, yeah, people are naturally gonna
Yeah,
freak out. Like yeah, like I think it was like a like if I go out in like a crowd and just say I have a gun, people are gonna like naturally
yeah.
freak out, even if I don't have a gun. And it's like very clearly like I don't have one. People are naturally gonna freak out and react
So
accordingly.
yeah,
Like that's there's a knee jerk reaction to threats like that. So the fact that the Secret Service just completely blew off this credible like intelligence agency because they fucked up one time, and yeah, because the Secret Service has never fucked
yeah.
up at all ever.
um,
Um, yeah, I'm sure there's some topical stuff like that we're unaware of, but yeah, there's just you can't do that and expect and not expect there to be some kind
yeah.
of consequence.
It's so I feel like it's a lot of those things that I have to kind of agree with you that this isn't very real. But there were things watching it now. There were things that I did notice that I don't think I like. I made me think about it more. Because I did think about it as a kid, like how okay, control versus chaos. Like control is a large, very organized agency, like whereas chaos is just, as far as we know, like a couple of people. It is disorganized because they're chaos. Like there's things like that I'm like, oh, that's actually, I feel like that was stuff that the movie didn't shove down my throat and I actually liked and I felt was not
Yeah.
like that I can buy to a degree.
Well, it but we also don't even know to like the extent on like how
Yeah,
chaotic
exactly,
chaos
exactly.
is, because we only see like
There's only
three
three
like
people. Yeah.
basically manager. Yeah, we only see like three like actual agents, and then the rest are just kind of like henchmen that kind of like work by proxy. As like, oh yeah, I work at like this the bakery. That it's like, okay, so are you guys all
Yeah, I
chaos agents,
agree.
or do you all just hear that we're just
I
hired? Like,
yeah.
like you're
I have
being
to
like
think that they
outsourced or
are.
something.
But that's the other, obviously the other side of that. But I think there were the themes and the ideas that the movie didn't, I feel like, shove down our throats. They just kind of showed it throughout the movie, which I liked. But I feel like, yeah, there were a lot of things, a lot of the realistic things were the things that are like, that's not how people react.
Yeah,
That I kind of don't
it
buy.
it kind of
Yeah,
reminded me of Parks and Rec. Yeah.
yeah. I'm familiar.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you, it kind of reminded me of that on like how like the average like town person and that and like all like the town hall meetings are just saying like all these like insane like non really believable like almost like idiotic like things like
Yeah,
my dog sniffed a tree, I didn't like that, and or just some idiotic stuff like that, but
yeah,
like that's the general like consensus of intelligence for like that entire town. That's kind of the vibe I was getting from this movie of like everyone was dumbed down to a ridiculous level, and that was like the baseline equivalent of like the intelligence for people in this movie of just
yeah.
only
That's a
like
good point. Yeah,
only like five people had a clue what was going on, and everyone else was just a bumbling moron, and including like the general public, the president in this movie, this not the CIA, the Secret Service, like everyone just was just walking around and just be like her dur dur dur, and just had no idea what was actually going on, and just going about as if it was a normal day.
if anything, I think what confused me was if it was just simply, oh, control is they're an agency and they fight chaos, but they mention the secret. They mentioned like the CIA and stuff like that. So it's like, why why aren't they like an extension of the CIA, or are they? Why aren't the CIA dealing with like it putting
I'm sure
them?
that's yeah. I'm sure that was probably like some like there was some reasoning behind that in like the show, and this was just kind of its own thing. So there wasn't really a need to be like including like all these other like outside agencies, but it also kind of begs the mind of like if this is supposed to be like a secret organization, so then why would they need to be like why would the chief go to like all these like very public not really public but like these meetings with like all these other department heads and
Yeah,
the vice president? It's like, shouldn't this be kind of like a Men in Black
I was about
situation?
to say. I was about to say. It's
Yeah.
clearly it would make more sense if it was. It's basically trying to incorporate, like, because the it's incorporating it into like a contemporary world, and it doesn't work as well as it could. I agree. If it was more like Men in Black, where
Yeah,
this doesn't exist, it would make a
yeah,
little more
because
sense.
yeah, because they're kind of giving it like this like MI6 James Bond vibe, but they're supposed to be like operating in the shadows, being completely secret, a clandestine group of secret operatives operating around the world. It's like, okay, so you're Men in Black, but no, they're going into like these like war room meetings in like this like you said, like this like post 9/11 like world of like sharing intelligence and just like the war on terror, and just it doesn't really work like that. Like, yeah, I know you're working to like fight against like this terrorist organization, but you're only fighting this one terrorist organization as far as we know.
Yeah, that's the thing is like, did they defeat chaos as a whole? They just stopped chaos. They didn't really. I think this was a movie. I've seen this Get Smart 2 on like that list of sequels that we'll never get list. So, and I feel
Yeah,
like it ties things up enough that I can, it's a decent standalone. But
yeah,
it also, yeah, like, because they, when you really think about it, they didn't stop chaos. They just stopped them. They stopped this plan. They foiled their plan, but they didn't like end them completely.
yeah.
So, it has enough to work with to make more. But yeah, overall, yeah, this isn't that realistic. I think I even admit it. It's nostalgic blindness. I've watched this for years, and I do kind of have a soft spot for it. I feel like if I watch this for the
Yeah,
first time now, obviously I'd be like, this is terrible. But I think the biggest reason why I can look past certain things to some degree is because it is fun. Like, I still enjoy watching it, and like there are jokes that I
Yeah, and, and
find
that's
really funny. Like,
yeah, like that's perfectly fine. Like I kind of have like a love-hate relationship with like the Resident Evil movies. Like they're
yeah,
horrible movies. Like especially like when you get later on, like past anything past like 3, they just get horrendously bad. But I do enjoy the series as a whole for like the dumb action movies that they
yeah.
are, even if they have nothing to do with the source
It's just
material.
like, as it passes an afternoon. It's not yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I think as long as
Yeah, it's mindless fun that you can turn your brain
yeah,
off and
like I
enjoy.
recently like a couple months ago I watched Lake Placid for the first time, and it's
Oh, love that
yeah,
movie.
it wasn't
Yeah,
good, but I loved it. I loved it
yeah.
so much. It was so much fun. I like, it was so much
You get a
fun.
swearing Betty White. That's the best movie.
Who like feeds a giant um it,
Alligator a full-grown
no, it
cow. That's the
kept, when that
best.
happened I was like, what? Like, but yeah, like it's just it's this is simply it's just it's a fun dumb movie, and so I mean I do recommend it in that regard. No, it's not like a cinematic masterpiece. But yeah, it's I think
Far from it.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I think it was a fun movie to kick off our summer uh movies.
Yeah.
And
No. It is a fun kind of like, all right, we're out of school now. Let's watch something to really dumb ourselves down so we can enjoy the rest of these.
yeah, yeah, I agree.
And speaking of enjoying the rest of our episodes, Sam, where can our viewers find some of our other episodes?
You can find us Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, pretty much wherever you can find podcasts, as well as YouTube. Follow us and subscribe to our Instagram page. We're always giving, like, updates on what's coming up. Um, yeah,
Yeah, leave a comment, subscribe, like, share, follow, retweet, the whole
I
shebang,
I
all of it. Punch that bell
I love
notification,
this time of
send me a
year.
retweet, find me on
Yeah,
Reddit.
I love this time of year because it's just like, I don't know. It's we're doing movies that we seem to also have like a soft spot for and
Yeah,
love, and like
yeah.
yeah. So
Like,
I
I mean,
this is such a fun.
who doesn't love a good blockbuster?
Yeah,
Yeah. So, stay tuned next week where we are going to be continuing along the trend of some fun spy movies. I'm actually really excited for this one. We've had this on a
yeah,
list for
a
like,
while. Yeah,
yeah, like almost 2 years, I want to say,
yeah,
or something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that. Yeah, like this is one that we had like in the books like when we first started. So I'm really excited to finally check this off for our list. So
yeah.
stay tuned for that. I've already said too much. So that being said, I'm Kevin Tracy,
I'm Samantha Tomlinson.
and you've been listening to Movie Reel. Bye bye, folks.